Same. Hey,
Same, same.
welcome back to Gray Roots. This week is Thanksgiving week. How's everybody feeling? Take a deep breath.
Eh.
Let's take a deep breath together. Breathe in, breathe out. So this week, this is part of our Festive Frenzy series, and there's three parts to this. And the first one we're going to be talking about is holiday guilt. Yikes.
This
And
is why we're in Christmas gear. Just notice
got
if you
my
notice
cozy
our little,
flannel on.
got my little, oh, 'tis the season. We're
Christmas
getting ready.
PJs, getting ready. It's crazy that we're even having to talk about Christmas guilt because us as moms, don't we put guilt on ourselves every other time of year?
Truth.
Um, yeah, so
So much going on that we do for other people. Like,
let's edit that.
and I don't mean this to be like a sexist thing, but like as the mom, and maybe there's some dads out there that carry some of the load, help with some of the load, but there's just like so much that we do to prepare for this one day between, everything like Thanksgiving all the way to Christmas. I remember the first year that the kids were they're almost out of the house, but I was so overwhelmed and I was not in a good place. And Jeff said, just give me the list and I will take care of everything. And he did. And it was amazing. But when he finished, he was like, wow, I did not realize that this is what you did every single year to make this happen, right?
Mhm.
Christmas doesn't just
Right.
happen. People are planning and working and doing a lot of work. So I think that is where a lot of the Christmas guilt and stress comes in. At least it did for me anyway.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And we're going to be talking about like the different ways that we put guilt on ourselves. Is it, family putting expectations on us like, oh, you guys have to be there at this certain time, this certain day? Or is it just we're feeling guilty because we can't show up for others well, even though we want to? So, I have a quick story. When we moved to Georgia when Taylor was two, at this point, I was engaged to Kurt. We knew we were going to get married, but what this did was I moved away from my family. So I didn't have that choice at Christmas time or Thanksgiving to, am I going to spend it here or there? I mean, Colorado was a long time away. So that guilt was I wanted to be in Colorado. I wanted to be with my family, but we
Mm.
just didn't because it was too far away. So that's not necessarily a bad thing that somebody put on me. It was just something I was feeling already like, I've always done that. We were always did this on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day or Thanksgiving, and I just wasn't going to be a part of that anymore. And I that was something that I felt guilty for in a sense, but also just grieving that loss. So, but also it gave me I didn't have to decide every holiday where I was going to be. So in a sense, it was easier. And that was, a situation I didn't have to put
Yeah.
myself in. So, well, let's talk about holiday. Like, let's just throw out some ideas like that situation. And Alicia, what you talked about are different ways that we do put guilt on ourselves or that we feel guilty. So, what are some things that come to mind for you guys?
Listen, I think if you just get on social media for 2 seconds around the holidays and this mother in law madness and just in general, the family, there is so much guilt put on the adult child with children to be at their family gatherings. I
Mm-hmm.
know that I lived through that. I mean, my parents expected me to load up my children, load up for Thanksgiving. We went to my husband's family when they were young. And then every Christmas, my parents expected me to load up the presents and show up before Christmas Eve,
Mm-hmm.
spend the night, and have Christmas morning there.
Mm.
So, y'all, that was
Wow.
insanity. But the guilt that they put on me because we'd always done it, I still had younger siblings in the house. And so I just gave in to that and I was miserable. And it wasn't until
Mm-hmm.
I want to say baby number 3 where I finally said, okay, we can no longer. It
Yeah.
might have even been Sarah. It might have been baby number 4. We can no longer do this. We have to have Christmas morning. We'll come plan a time to see you another time. But the guilt was so real. And not only was the guilt real, once I made that decision, even though I was so happy to be in my home, I did miss being with my
Mm-hmm.
family. So I got it, but it's it's real. And those people online, man, they let you know how real it is. It is not just my family, your family. It is common, 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 common for this guilt to show up
Yeah.
heavy around the holidays.
Right. So let's talk about that a second. How that's why we're here, is you as a young mom and, feeling that guilt, that conversation that we feel like can't happen. Hey, I'm stressed. I want to spend time at my own house. I don't want to, like, why can we not have that conversation with when we're feeling that way? Like, for you to say, "Hey, I'm this is stressing me out." Or we just think this is just what I'm supposed to do. This is because this is how the family operates. Like, let's talk about that
I think
space a minute.
I think in the first couple of years, Alicia, I'll let you jump in. Sorry, I think in the first couple of years, that's the way it was. I mean, I was
Okay,
happy to
yeah.
be with my family. It wasn't a big deal. It just kind of as it more children came on, the presents got bigger, all of that. Then I really wanted to stop it, and that conversation was hard to have. It probably took
Mm,
me 2 years of
mm.
Holland being miserable to finally say we're not doing it. What about you, Alicia?
So I had a little bit different situation because we moved away from family. We were with our family maybe about all of 2 years in St. Louis when during holidays, where we actually lived there. Before that, we were in the military, we were in Germany, we were in Savannah. Uh, if we happened to come for Christmas, then we came for a month, right? Because that was our leave time, and we spent some
Okay.
time here and some
Yeah.
crazy. And then after those 2 years, we picked up our family and moved to Georgia, where we are now. We don't have any family in Georgia. So, and there was a little bit of a riff when we left with Jeff's family. So I had no interest in like going back for holidays. And so we actually started, and honestly, nobody was really coming to visit us either, except for my mom, even though everyone was welcome. But we decided to create our holiday traditions, which we're actually going to talk about. I'm a super big fan of traditions. We're going to talk about that in a couple podcasts from now. But yeah, we kind of created our own thing, and we didn't have to. I didn't have that pressure of like, oh my gosh, do we go here or do we go there? But I will say this, and we have, because our family was kind of its own little unit for Christmas and holidays, like we did it all together, just us, that when my boys started to kind of choose women and go off, and I was kind of like, but what about all the things we do? Well, because it was just us, we did all the things. We did Christmas Eve, we did
Mm.
Christmas Day, we did
Mm-hmm.
a day after Christmas and went shopping because we said, hey, don't send our kids toys. You don't remember how old they are anyway. You're giving them stuff for a 7-year-old and they're 14. Just send them money. And then everybody would take their money and go shopping the next day. And sometimes it was cool. The boys would be like, hey, I've got this much. You've got this much. Do you want to go in on this game system or whatever? So our holiday was like
Yeah.
it wasn't just a one time thing. And so that from mother-in-law, that was kind of hard for me to realize, okay. And I told my oldest daughter-in-law, because she was, she was the first one. And I'm like, I, I want you to make your own holiday traditions. I do. And then I just got, because I do, I want
Yeah.
that for them. And they need to
Yeah.
create their own
Yeah.
environment. But as a
Yeah.
mother-in-law, it was kind of like just killing me inside because I'm like, well, I still had two that like they're like, well, we don't do the same stuff anymore just because Andrew's doing other stuff. Like, what does that look like? So, um, and but
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
want
We're
It's
actually going to revisit
complicated.
that. Go ahead.
I didn't want her to have that guilt of like, well, I guess we got to go to your parents. And her family didn't have any family around because they were from Maryland and moved down here, so they didn't have the in-law outlaw thing. Um, so one thing that we did do, and we kind of started to combine the holiday together. So we would kind of have our separate things. And then, like, so on like Christmas Day, somebody will host dinner, either our family or S's parents, mom and my daughter in law's mom and dad. And kind of, we all kind of go over there and share that. Now, it's worked for now because we didn't really have any other daughter in laws that were like, well, I got my family over here and I got my family over here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure at some point that may change, but for right now, I say I know they really enjoy it. I think they do, um, and they also don't understand the having to go here and there, which we did when we had to come home from Germany, and that was a mess. But yeah, so that's I don't
Yeah. So
experience
we're
the
actually going to revisit that. I like that. Yeah.
yeah as much as I
Yeah. Because it
kind of
changes,
have
right?
that little mama heart. Yes, it changes. It changes,
It
and I
changes.
remember
Yeah. So
Well,
let's,
and you've
kind of
sorry.
rolling on here. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
let's just kind of bullet point the different ways that we feel guilty or that we put guilt on other people for the holidays. Like, let's just kind of put some bullet points. So having to show up somewhere as, a child, like you talked about, Kathy, during that transition of being a single person and then getting married and having those, so that guilt of making that break. And then what else
Mhm.
comes to mind for you guys, that the guilt that we
Well, I think
feel?
the blended families.
Oh
When you have
my
a blended
goodness.
family, there's so much guilt because if you spend it with one parent, the other parent might get their feelings hurt. So that adds a totally different. And then let's
Yeah.
just say you're an adult child and you have a blended family, and then you marry someone who has a blended family, then you've got, four sets of just parents that you're trying to please potentially. There's so much guilt around
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
the while trying to establish your own traditions with your
Your
own
own unit.
kids and your
Yep.
own unit.
Hmm. Yep.
Man, yeah, that's one. How about Alicia? You talked about how that transition also from you doing the traditions with your kids and having it, and me too, man. Like, we hunkered down and we just had our things that we did together. And then once those daughters-in-law started coming out and having their own things that they wanted to do, you can see how
Mm.
our reputation starts to come out because we want what we want the way things that we wanted it. So
Yep.
um, that's another way of
And it's
us as
hard that
mother-in-laws
change.
that
I think
we put. Go ahead.
I was just to say, I think it's hard as the mother-in-law or even the mother. I remember that Andrew and Essa were together, are my oldest, and we were going to St. Louis for Christmas that year. Eventually, we started going back every once in a while to visit with the rest of our family. It was great. But we started going back. And so we were going back that year. They'd been dating maybe like 6 months. And he said, "Hey, Mom, could Essa come?" Like, absolutely, she could come. Well, that was great for me, right? Because I got my son and his girlfriend, and we were all in our family thing. And I remember talking to her mom, and her mom was like a little bit uneasy, upset with that because that was the first Christmas that she was not going to have her daughter with her on Christmas. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. I
Mm,
mean, like, not even not with her, like in another state.
yeah.
Right. And so for her, that was,
Mm,
I'm sure that was kind of almost like a grieving, like, okay, this is happening. This is happening. We're going to have to start sharing these kids. Um, and, then grandkids
yeah.
come and
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
It's
hard.
more
hard.
sharing. Yeah.
It is so
Yeah.
hard. So while we're still talking about that, is how those girls and the guys, my daughter and her husband, how they are coming in with their own family traditions, their own backgrounds, their own ways of doing things. And, I know when Taylor and Kayla first got married, I was like, bring her into all that we're doing. You are welcome to come into all that we're doing, not thinking about, oh, you have your own traditions and things that you want to do at Christmas time. And what does that look like for you? Like, I just did not even think about that. So being aware of different family traditions when those daughters-in-law and sons-in-laws come into the family. Go ahead, Kath.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say it's so difficult. And last year we decided to go to New Zealand to visit Jeff's family. He had not been home for Christmas in, I don't know, bazillion years. So we decided to go there. Well, we took our two youngest, one was in high school, one was in college. So we took them with us. And even that caused such stress in the family
Mm,
because we were away from the other children who were there. Then they get used to whatever the new situation is. And so here's the thing. I think we need to remember this flexibility. It doesn't have
absolutely.
to look a certain way. It just doesn't. And what I always tell my kids is, you know what? I love you. I'm going to always want you here. It just is fact. I'm going to always prefer you to be right here.
Yeah.
However, at no point do I expect that. If you want to have our Christmas a week before, a month before, let's just decide it. But I feel like it's my responsibility as more the matriarch to set that stage. Now, I
Absolutely.
send out a group text. Do y'all have group texts with your family? I
We
have a group
do.
text with all my kids.
Yes.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
called Mama's
Yes.
Babies. So we have
Yeah.
Mama's Babies. I
Aw.
will send that out. I'm going to write this lovely text, and daughter-in-laws are included. Y'all, I'll get
Yeah.
crickets. No one will respond. One
Yes.
person might like the message. I'm like, what
Yeah.
the heck? So
Mm-hmm.
in order to not to not have the guilt, you got to have some honest conversations. And so I feel like that we should, as if you're listening to this and you're the, you're the matriarch, you're the older mom in this situation, that it is our responsibility to put everyone at ease and say, you know what, you do what's best for you. We're here. And I feel like we have to start that conversation. I think that takes the pressure off those younger moms and dads, because they're going to naturally feel the pressure to be with us. It's funny. I've got one son and his wife, like, they don't feel the pressure. They're like, we're not coming. I don't know when we'll see you. And we're doing our own thing. I
Yeah.
mean, but they've got blended family. They've
Yeah.
got other people who've been like family. They have a lot of people in their life that they try to see, but they don't feel guilty about it. They're like, I don't know. We probably won't see you until March. I'm like, okay, we'll see you in March. So then I have other ones that are like, you're not making the traditional everything, so I
Yeah.
think too, just knowing your kids and
Mm.
realizing it doesn't have to look like something you see in a Hallmark movie. It just doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah. And so as our family's grown with, now three of them are married and they have different families they want to go to. Like I saw that coming after Taylor and Kayla. And so what we started doing, I had this idea of December 29th through January 1st. We go back to cabins where Carly got married, and there's cabins, and that's when we have our Christmas. That's the time that we get together as a family. That way, they're open. Christmas Eve, go here. Christmas Day, go wherever you want. It's for me not to put that pressure on them to show up on those 2 days. And so that's been just really good. And there's some people that are like, I want to come home for Christmas Eve. Sure, come on. Christmas Day, come on. I'm here. I'll do whatever, but not to put that pressure that that is the day where we all need to be
Yes.
together. So
Yes.
it's worked out really well. And some have come some years and some haven't, and that's okay. But I think just to
Do they all go to the do they all go to the December 29th one?
they do. That's the day. Well, yeah. So the Millers and Oakleys, we don't do Christmas together anymore. It just got complicated, and now they're all older, and it's just different. And so that's an Oakley get. I mean, that's enough people right there. An Oakley gathering where we get cabins and food, and we do the gifts, and they have an Oakley gift exchange amongst themselves. But Christmas Eve now is, hey, let's go to Carly's house. She's going to take over and then Christmas Day is Miller Day. Like everybody, come on. And then if Tanner's around or whoever's around, they show up as well. But it's not that
Oh, okay.
pressure that everybody has to come on this time. And that has given me freedom and them freedom to do whatever they want to do with their other families on those days. So like you said, a matter of being flexible and getting creative. We have to really get
Yes.
creative.
What suggestions would y'all have? Just to think about those young moms, because I think it's easy for us because we're over here like, yeah, I'll just have the conversation.
Yeah.
What if you're 25, you've got a newborn, you're terrified of your freaking mother-in-law? What advice would we give those young moms how to deal with it if they're listening to this? Y'all
Go
have
ahead,
thoughts on that?
Alicia.
I think, honestly, I think everything for me, and I've said this before, comes back to grace and empathy. If you can somehow put yourself in your mother in law's shoes and just kind of realize that she's been doing these traditions for a long time years. She loves your son. He's been an integral part of her raising kids and family, and come from it with that perspective of, hey, listen, I want to make this work, and you are so important to us, and we want to make sure that you don't feel left out or excluded while we start to build our own family traditions. I think just like how you come at it has a lot to do with it, because when you come at it of,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
I'm a strong personality. I have a daughter-in-law, strong personality, and I am all about clear and concise communication. But if you come at your mother-in-law and you're like, hey, listen, it's great that you're doing all this, but this is my family now, and we need to start creating our own traditions. So you're going to have to kind of get on board, and I'll let you
I
know
had a
what
daughter-in-law say that.
Yeah.
Okay. My daughter-in-law
Yeah.
did not say that. No, she would probably die before she said that. She might be thinking it in her head, but she would never say. But you see the difference between that of, okay, now, and now you're going to wonder why your mother-in-law is mean to you or has this built up resentment against against you. I mean, I don't know. I know I see things from the
Yeah.
mother-in-law perspective, and I had a fantastic mother-in-law. My biggest complaint about her is that she smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and that was like whatever, right? Um, that was her thing. Everybody's got their thing,
Mine
right?
did too.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I never felt guilt about anything. Never felt. I mean, she
Well,
was
now we know
fantastic.
why.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about
Yeah.
blended family stress, guilt about not showing up places. What else? Something that came to mind was make as moms and grandmas and mother-in-laws making everybody feel equal. I know for me, marrying Andy and now having four, bonus kids and looking as I'm shopping and I'm making piles, I'm stressed out, like, oh my gosh, are they going to think this person has more than this person? And just look, even though this costs more than this, like they're only opening one. I mean, just that guilt of the expectation of making our kids feel special by the gifts. Can you guys speak into that?
Well, I think too, you've got kids who move out and get married. Like for me, it's like I've got kids still at home. Like my younger ones, well, they're the babies, and oh, they're the babies. They're spoiled rotten. They get everything. Well, they're not on their own
We have that
yet.
too.
That's the way I see it. They're still at the home. They're still under our, again, financial care, and so I do treat things a little bit differently with that, with the adults that are having partners that give each other gifts. So anyway, there is so
Mm-hmm.
much guilt around
Mm-hmm.
it, and
Mm-hmm.
and the last year I kind of changed, and we're going to talk about that next week, with the presence versus presence. We're gonna dive into this one a lot. So because I think it's huge. I think we get caught up in the guilt of making sure everyone is happy, and it's literally a 5-minute thing and then it's over. So I don't know about that one. I don't know the answer to that one. I just know
Mm-hmm.
it is an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thinking about this, and even I feel it, the mention of the holidays, I like it. My heart just starts to race a little bit and my breathing gets a little bit
Mhm.
shallow.
Mhm.
Just taking some
Yeah.
deep breaths in these moments. And, it's Thanksgiving week. And so how are we feeling about getting together for Thanksgiving and doing all the things and making it look all Pinteresty and perfect? And what are some ways that we as moms, like I said, can combat that and just give ourselves grace? Or what are some ways you guys have done that and just said, I'm not doing that. I'm not falling into that, because come January, we are a mess. We are a mess in January coming down from all of this stress. So how can we enter into these holiday seasons better? And with maybe tools, let's give some tools on how to just navigate this guilt. You guys have anything come to mind?
Mm, that's a tough one.
Expectations. Well, I think keep expectations low from expecting
Or
kids to
yourself.
show up from, or yourself. Yeah, don't expect
Yeah.
yourself to make this gourmet meal. It's okay to say. It's funny because different families handle it. Like for me, I enjoy the cooking even though it's stressful. Um and so I don't often tell my kids bring something, right? But a lot of families, that's how they do it. You bring a salad, you bring the dressing, you drink. I usually just say, come and we'll make it. And one of my daughter-in-laws loves to cook, so she usually wants to come in and help me, and we cook together. But I think the expectations, you got to keep those low. But I love it for yourself and for other people. I think that just sets the stage. What does that look like? I don't know. Maybe it looks like
Hmm.
you order in Thanksgiving. You don't even cook it.
Right.
I don't know what it looks like for each person, but I think it's okay to say, hey, this year we're going to Cracker Barrel. Load up,
Right.
or whatever,
Yep. Come on.
whatever you need to do. Or we're having hamburgers and hot dogs, or, we tailgated last Thanksgiving. We went to a ball game on Thanksgiving. And so I literally ordered it all in
Oh,
from a
that's cool.
restaurant. So,
I love that. There was one year where we took all the kids on a trip. So we were going to do a trip one year and then Christmas one year and then a trip one year, which was great because I did not have to do anything. We didn't put up
yeah.
decorations, no stocking. It was beautiful. And also it just showed me all the commercialism that is around it. And it was so good to just sit in that moment in that season without all of this stuff. And I know you can't do that. We can't do that, but just realizing that we don't have to do all the things. We really don't. So, Alicia, go ahead. You were going to share something.
So I was Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned the trip, like a trip for Christmas, then be home for Christmas, because that is something that, being in the travel industry is a great solution for just taking a lot of the stress out, and that's your Christmas gift. I have lots of clients that are like, "Hey, we're gonna go to the beach for Christmas. We're gonna go on a cruise. Everything's paid for, right? Or we're gonna go to an all inclusive, whatever. We're just gonna kind of get out." Now, once you have like the mother-in-laws and the father, like, okay, so who gets you for Christmas? That gets like a little tricky. Most of these clients they're like, hey, if you want to come, come, but this is where we'll be. But I also wanted to put in there just like this, just for the new mamas that are trying to make everything perfect, right? And it's about the expectations. We put so many expectations on ourselves, or at least I did, to have everything perfect. And especially if you have in-laws over, or your mother, or like, okay, oh my gosh, okay, so like I was raised like all the I's not need to be dotted, T's need to be crossed, and I am like an 80%er. Let's get this the hell done and have some fun, right? So to have everything perfect for me was a lot of stress. I'm like, trying to do all that. There was a Thanksgiving, and I started this back when the boys were just barely able to kind of write. And I got this from a MOPS, Mothers of Preschool meeting that I'd gone to. And I got this little, almost like a little suitcase treasure box type of thing. And at Thanksgiving dinner, and this, maybe y'all want to steal this from me, I'm totally good with it. Everybody got an index card and a gold marker in their place setting, because I would set all the places we had. That's how we did Thanksgiving. I had this beautiful dining room table. I'm like, nope, we're using it at least once a year. Everybody sit down. And they would write one thing that they were thankful for the year. Now, in years that we did really well, it's like we had these things that came up, like, hey, I'm thankful for the four-wheelers that we have. I'm thankful that I got to play XYZ football. I'm thankful for the special lacrosse stick that I got, like all these things, right? But then there were years that and because I continued this, like every year we would do this at Thanksgiving, and then we would share it around the table. But then there were years that like we didn't have a whole lot, and the things that they came up with are precious. And I took
Mm.
those out one year and said, "Oh my gosh, you guys, look at all these things that you've written over the years." And they're like, "Yeah, like the four-wheelers were cool, but I remember that CD that my brother made for me when we had to make gifts for each other and we didn't have any money to buy anything. Like that was my favorite thing. I listen to that all the time, and every time those songs come on, I think of that Christmas, and him making that for me." And I know we're going to get to presents versus presents in a future, future, but guys, it doesn't have to be all the bows matching, and that's not what they're going to remember, is what I'm trying to tell you. They're not going to remember that all your
Yeah.
place cards match. They're not going to remember that the bows and the wrapping paper all match with the ornaments on your tree, and that the colors
Right.
Oh, but
all
I
went
love that.
together.
Yeah.
They're not going to
And some people
remember
do, and
that.
that's
They're
okay.
not.
That's right.
They're
Yeah.
not.
No.
That's all. I said what I said.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about those feelings of feeling like we're not enough, or even
Mhm.
sometimes I'm being selfish because I'm not wanting to take my kids over to my mother-in-law's, or wherever it is, or even overspending can cause guilt because I'll just deal with that later. So that those feelings of guilt, and let's talk about a little bit about what it does to our physical body, like what it's doing to
Mm.
us. Is it worth it? Is it really worth it? Especially now when things are already so stressful around us in the world, that how can we change that and change it to be a time of stress and guilt for us to a time of peace and getting together and just being together with those people who are in our safe space and protecting that safe space. And so maybe focusing more on that side of it rather than like what you were just talking about, Alicia. Any thoughts on that, you guys?
I mean, I think that it is okay to be out of the box. I mean, it is okay to say, this year we're going to do a campfire, or this year, if you are struggling to keep it
Hmm.
together, I think
Yeah.
it is okay to say, hey, we're going to do something different this year. Um, honestly, I think at the end of it, those are some of the best holidays, the ones where you are a little out of the box, where it's not so rushed to do it exactly the same way. I love the thankful card. We've done similar things over the years, but I've not done it consistently like it sounds
Hmm.
like you have. And I think that if you take away nothing, take away that. I think
Yeah.
just putting in an attitude of gratefulness into the day, into Thanksgiving, like really, what is it about? It's about being thankful for what we've been giving. I mean, I get it. I
Yeah.
know that it's a big old holiday that really we probably shouldn't even have, but
Right.
what we make it is we're together, and what are we thankful for? And again, if you've ever experienced any loss, and most of us have, remember that. Remember that we have life and we have each other, and we can blow it out of proportion so quickly. So I think
Hmm.
for our bodies, the stress of our bodies feeling it, I mean, I'm just thinking of literally maybe you all get together and you take a walk. I mean, you go walk
Yeah.
back to the walking we talked about before. Find something to do together that's not focused around sitting around the table eating or making this meal that takes you 3 days. You eat for 30 minutes and then everybody lays on the sofa and watches
Yeah.
football, which is what
Right.
my family usually does,
Yeah.
and passes out all over the house. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
that we set the tone, and so be willing to set the tone of either relaxed or gratefulness, or maybe ask yourself, what tone are you going to set this year? I know
Yeah.
it's like here, we're doing this, and Thanksgiving is in a couple days, but even now, I think you
Hmm.
still can set the tone. What
Absolutely.
what is going to be the tone of our Thanksgiving in our
Absolutely.
holiday season?
Yeah. Yeah. And we
Yeah.
get to set that. Yes,
Hmm.
kind of tagging on the real quick the Thanksgiving box, Alicia. We did that too, and it's been really cool because I had my kids draw. Like you couldn't write the word, you had to draw a picture, and we've been doing it so long that there's pictures that Kurt drew in there. There's things that
Oh,
he drew, and to see my kids, as little tiny kids trying to draw, and then now every year, like you, they look back and they want to open that up and just see the things that they were grateful for that
yeah.
year. It's such a cool. So I love
Yeah.
that you brought that up. So that is a tool that we can recommend to you guys. To It's not too late. It's not too late, and
Mm-mm.
you can do that with grandkids too. Is just start that now and have that box
Yes.
and bring that out every year and go. Remember when we were thankful for this small thing or
Yeah.
this thing over here. So that I love that
Mm.
you brought that up. All right. Any
Also,
last
I just want to
thoughts,
put a
Alicia?
little, yes, just like a little for all my boy mamas out there who are on the struggle bus. I just want you to know that when we did that, and our youngest was probably like 4, so as he got older, I mean they're all boys, but right there he wrote stuff in there like put the expectations low, guys. It's what they want to write. He put
Mm.
stuff in there like I'm thankful for poopy poopy caca. I'm like, okay, that's what he wrote that year. Okay. Like, don't feel like you're a failure because you have
Well,
these boys that
listen.
are like doing the whole it's fun to
Yeah.
use potty stuff. Like, just roll with it. It's a
Just
marathon.
roll with
It's not a
it.
sprint. Okay. Just
Yeah.
just roll with it.
Yep.
That's what I got for y'all. But
Yeah.
we had a couple of those cards
Yeah.
in there.
Go ahead, Kath.
No, I agree with that. I was just going to say be thankful for poopy because, that
Right.
would make your tummy hurt if not after Thanksgiving. So, be glad they
That's
wrote that.
right.
I don't know.
Okay, on that note, you guys,
Small
you guys,
deposits.
yes, small deposits, making small deposits this week at
Leave it
Thanksgiving.
in the toilet.
Some of you are going into some pretty tough, pretty tough situations, maybe with people that you don't necessarily want to be around. But let's show up in a way that we can show up and make small deposits this week. So
And
next,
choose the relationship.
yeah,
Choose the relationship. Like, go for that. That's what matters at the end of this, you guys. Relationship. So, as Alicia said, grace. Go in it
yeah,
with grace and
Grace.
empathy and putting yourself in their shoes. Wherever you land in this, try to remember they're not the bad guys. They're not
Mm-hmm.
after you, against you. In most
Yeah,
of the cases, they're so for you. There's just some miscommunication.
exactly.
So go into it with grace.
Yes. Also, with some deep breaths, with some grounding, and get
Yes.
yourself settled. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, calming your own nervous system, and everybody have a great week. The next two will be talking about presents versus presents with Kathy, and then traditions unwrapped. Stories of Holiday Magic with Alicia. So we look forward to seeing you guys back in a couple weeks.
Happy
Bye.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.